Okay, so Lynch is, in my mind, a transcendent artist first and foremost. He's a man who's entering his 50th year, or is now in his 50th year, of his twice daily practice of transcendental meditation. And I don't know about you or if you've been formally trained in TM, but I can say without a doubt, having been recently trained myself, that the work of David Lynch is most certainly the sort of which, just like the fish kit, contains like this full spectrum of human experience, or at least points to the very essence of being and everything that it contains, from positive emotions to the melancholy or neutral to the negative. It's all, I mean, it's just all in there. The entire ball of wax is just all in there. And on top of that, there is the beauty and the mystery and the sense of wonderment. So all of these seemingly disparate elements coming from one transcendent source of pure conscious awareness at varying levels, all simultaneously. And it's a source which we can all tap into. So that's the thing. It's not just Lynch being, people think of David Lynch as, oh, he's this genius. Well, anyone can tap into the same levels of pure conscious awareness. So it's not as if anyone is special in any specific regard. However, of course, Lynch's own life circumstances, his father, his mother, all of the events which led him to where he is, those are all, of course, his own and nobody else's. So we aren't talking we're talking about apples and oranges here after all. But we just have to remember that there's a repository of conscious awareness, of creativity that we can all tune into and appreciate too. And so to really understand the work of David Lynch with all of its many and equally relevant layers of meaning, and meaninglessness, we must understand that meaning occurs at certain ascending and descending levels of existence only, but at certain levels, at certain levels, meaning becomes irrelevant. So there's meaning at certain levels, and then you get to a point where meaning just doesn't have relevance anymore, and it's too cumbersome, and it's not worth the candle anymore. So in other words, to interpret Twin Peaks at only one specific level is to ignore the other levels at which things are occurring simultaneously. Of course, the transcendent nature of Twin Peaks, just like real life, is not ever going to reveal the big picture to us in human terms, simply because it just doesn't operate that way. The human level is just one level, but there's levels to this, right? Many levels. Now, some may expect or demand that, but we can only look at the entirety of the universe. At best, we can look at it through a straw, probing one small area at a time using the human intellect. However, we can transcend the lower levels of strictly human awareness, even for a time, and receive certain glimpses that transcend our current understanding. Will they have meaning in human terms? Probably not. Will they be important on different levels? Of course. Now, hinting to the all through the transcendent nature of world building that Lynch offers through his work, invariably reaches a level where meaning, at least in human terms, no longer applies, but it's no longer needed either. So all the ancillary stuff of the mind just sort of falls away as awareness blossoms into just pure being, right? Pure bliss. We can experience that. We can experience something beautiful and being as it is without having to be so obsessed with assigning meaning to everything. Now, another important scene in terms of the broader messages being conveyed in Twin Peaks involves a moment in the diner between Major Briggs and his son, Bobby. The Major recounts a vision he had and makes the point of distinguishing it from just a dream, which he describes as, quote, a reunion with the deepest well springs of my being, end quote. I just love how he delivers that line. It's just great. A vision where the enduring light of masculine love is passed from father to son. It's just such a beautiful scene. Bobby is very deeply touched by his father's words, causing him to cry openly. And strangely enough, the major, this is a bizarre scene towards the end, the major stands up, shakes his son's hand, just kind of matter-of-factly, like a business transaction, seems to call him Paul for some reason, and then promptly leaves. This seems, so I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe someone has a theory about that part of the scene, but this seems a bit of foreshadowing the scene, the recounting of the vision that Major Briggs has. It's a bit of foreshadowing as, of course, the Major ends up disappearing in the forest on a camping trip with Agent Cooper, and or perhaps he was abducted. It seems like he was abducted, right, later on in the show. Now, just like Log Lady, who appears on the level, she seems like on the level of appearances as like borderline insane, Major Briggs is so much more than just some military stuffed shirt or some boring dad to his son. For some reason, Major Briggs makes me think of Bob Roth, who is a TM practitioner and author, a man who has dedicated his life to TM. So I don't know if Briggs is kind of the fulfills this Bob Roth sort of role, but I tend to think that he might. Now, at the end of this same episode, the giant appears again in Agent Cooper's room at the Great Northern Hotel. Here again, Cooper is illuminated by a spotlight. This indicates that his conscious awareness is being visited by an awareness far more advanced than his own, or that is to say that he is just tuning into the field of pure conscious awareness that is, kind of a collective unified field of all things. So we also hear that familiar sound of the Tibetan singing bowl as the giant arrives, which is another signal as to the otherworldly nature of this interaction. But it's an interaction that is similar to the Red Room, and so there's a relation between the giant and the man from another place. And I'll get into that later in my archetypes video. We'll talk about that a little bit more. So in this scene, the giant tells Cooper about a third man who is ready to talk.